From Creepy Child, do you think the Bellas will be inducted into the Hall of Fame? Before last year, I wasn't sure if they would, but after this year, I think it's a sure thing. The only thing they were missing before this year was defining moments to make a Hall of Fame career, which they now have after the feud with Stephanie and Nikki's title reign. The only thing that needs to be determined now is how soon. They just need to keep adding more defining moments, matches, and feuds to their career. The more highlights they have, the quicker they'll be inducted. As of right now, I'd say they'd be inducted between 10 to 15 years after they retire. If they continue adding more defining moments, it could be a lot sooner. Do you think the Bella Twins would have fit in the Attitude Era? I actually imagine them being on that Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler level of popularity back in the Attitude Era. In fact, I think they would have been Tori and Stacy's biggest rivals at the time. However, I don't think they would have been top divas of the division. I think they would have been like Tori and Stacy, where they were mostly just eye candy that competed in bra and panty matches and whored themselves out to the superstars, kind of like what they were doing during the guest host era. But if we're talking about the Bella Twins of 2015 in the Attitude Era, then yeah, Nikki especially would have been huge and would have been a Hall of Famer. In fact, if Nikki of today was in the Attitude Era, there would be no Trish Stratus. From Shamar Court, what are your thoughts on Nikki Bellas Rack Attack? I think it's a great finisher, but I think it's one of those finishers that she should only do in big matches, because it is one of the most devastating finishers in Diva history, but the more we see it, the less devastating it looks. So I think she should cut back on using that as a regular finisher and only pull it out on special occasions. She has a lot of moves that could pass off as a second finisher: the Alabama Slam, the Spine Buster, the Cross Arm Breaker, Powerbomb. I'd like her to use one of those moves as her secondary finisher and save the Rack Attack for the pay-per-views. From Joshua Figueroa, when the Bellas leave, who will be your next favorite diva? I think it's obvious that I'm going to be pulling for Summer Rae the most out of all the divas. I'll probably have a lot of divas to be rooting for. Once Bayley debuts, Dana Brooke reaches her full potential, Sarah Lee gets signed, Eva Marie becomes a legend, and I might even like Paige a lot more if she wasn't so overrated. From Chris Santana, do you think Brie Bella is getting the Kaitlyn treatment and that the only reason they built her up was to build up the top heels of the division? It's not really the same situation, but I can see the point. Was Brie's face turn just to get Nikki over as a heel? I don't think it was intended to be at first, but once Paige turned face, they decided to make her what Brie was supposed to be. And the unfortunate thing is, it looks like they're not going to give Brie another face run ever again. So this next question was asked by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, but it's basically, will Brie Bella ever be Divas Champion again? It doesn't look like they have plans for Brie to win the title anytime soon, which is unfortunate because they set up the perfect story for her to win the title, but they dropped it so many times, it's hard to imagine they'll ever go back to it. One of the questions I was asked was how I would book Brie to win the title, and that's simple. Just pick back up on the angle with Stephanie and Daniel Bryan last year. There's a lot of different ways that they can do that, whether it's to end Nikki's reign, or if it's right before she leaves next year and gets a retirement title reign. From Game 2, is there anything you like about Brie that Nikki doesn't have? I actually had to think really hard about this, but I guess it's her mannerisms and facial expressions. Especially as a heel, she just does some of the funniest things in the ring. Like a couple weeks ago on SmackDown, Paige was looking at Brie like, "I'm gonna eat your soul," and Brie was staring back like, "Bitch, I'm fabulous." I think it's little things like that that sometimes make her more fun to watch than Nikki. From Crayola Plays Mobile, where do you see the Bella Twins after their title reign? The unfortunate thing is, they're not going to get the Paige treatment, where they're in every single title match for the next year. So it's really hard to tell. Maybe Brie will end up costing Nikki the title and they'll restart their feud from there. Or maybe they'll start the build for Besties versus Bellas at WrestleMania. Or maybe Nikki and Sasha can be long-term rivals and they can have a few matches against each other for a few months. From Affinity Skyliners X Forever X, how would you compare the Bellas to Naomi and Natalya? I wouldn't. The reason it's easy to compare the Bellas to AJ or Paige is because they are very similar in terms of style, psychology, and movesets. I can draw fair comparisons that prove there is a solid argument to say they're on the same level, whereas Naomi is a high-flying athlete and Natalya is a technical wrestling master. You can't really make a comparison between them and the Bellas because they're all very good at different things. Do you think if the Bellas were to go to TNA, they would get more respects from the fans like Taryn and Brooke did? No, because their gripes against the Bellas have nothing to do with their talent, it's all personal. So it doesn't matter if they were tearing the house down with 5-star classics every week, the haters will always find an excuse to discredit them. From Bella Army Fearless Bella Mode, what are your thoughts on Brie Bella's missile dropkick? People have been saying this since 2013, but Brie has the best dropkick in WWE today. I think that's all that needs to be said. From Jake Salisbury, if the Bellas never came back in 2013, where do you see the Divas division today? Without getting into every little detail, Total Divas would not have taken off. Without Total Divas, WWE would not feature any other diva besides AJ. Because as much as people don't want to admit it, Total Divas was the only thing keeping the other divas relevant during AJ's title reign. So without the Bellas, we would have had nothing but AJ and Paige burying the division for the last 2 years. From Saya Beth, in the beginning of Nikki Bella's title reign, did you think she would be the longest reigning Divas Champion? I always expected that she would drop the title at WrestleMania. I thought the whole point of the Bella feud was so that Brie could get her redemption at WrestleMania, but when that didn't happen, I actually wasn't sure how long she would be champion. In fact, I thought there was a possibility that she would drop the title every single time that she defended it, even up until the night that she broke the record. I was never 100% sure if WWE was going to let her go that far. So in hindsight, that was probably the most exciting that the WWE has ever been. The feeling that Nikki could drop the title at any point so that every time she defended it, it was a legitimate markout moment. It's been a long time since wrestling has made me feel that way, but I got that feeling each and every time that Nikki defended the title.